And we're on YouTube live now. Hi, YouTube people. Good morning.
Good. Yes, good morning.
Yes, Australia, 1 a.m. Wednesday.
Yes, it is.
You're going to have a really
ready to go here.
All right.
Radio to feed your soul.
Good morning, superstars. Benny, how are ya?
Hi, Sue. Good morning to you.
I had my Wheaties this morning. Can you tell?
You did. Oh, and how was your Mother's Day last weekend?
Oh, thank
sweet. Was it
you.
gorgeous as always?
It was wonderful. I went on a hike. I hung out with Mr. Smith.
You seem to have a running consistency and dates with this Mr. Smith.
He is my solid rock.
Here is my rim shot when I need
boom, boom.
Yeah, here. I got it. Hey.
Oh, I went and grounded. It was
again. Hey.
Yes, it was beautiful. I love it. Yeah. Yes, it was wonderful. And the boys celebrate, you celebrate, all that good stuff.
Yeah, they did with their mom. And then my girlfriend and I took their kids. We went down to Ruston, down in Tacoma, did a waterfront action, did a little afternoon lunch. And we did the 4-person bike, you know? How you ride around?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. You tell me about like people like trying to pedal and then others not pedaling and then those pedaling the whole time saying, why aren't you pedaling? You're like, but I am. Oh, you got to push and pedal. Yeah, there's a lot of action. There's a lot of, a lot of trust.
So our tourist community, please get on a 4-bike. And where did you go? Where was it? The waterfront?
Oh, Ruston, down in Tacoma.
Okay, gotcha.
Waterfront there, Ruston Way. Mm-hmm.
Got that. Beautiful. All right, guys. Well, welcome. Sue Lundquist here, the Gratitude Cafe. We are live on radio. Good morning to the Pacific Northwest. Good morning to the International Tribe. I love you. We are speaking to Australia today. I am so excited. Lisa's in the house. I love that sweater, babe. You look so stunning. We have got, our journeys and our stories so aligned. And of course we would have met when we met. And I'm going to get to that in just a second, but I'm going to tease the audience just a little bit. We're going to talk powerful tools. We're going to talk vulnerability. We're going to talk about choosing self over fear. Oh, it's going to get juicy. It's going to get real. It's going to get yummy.
They're all the topics I love to talk about, every single one of those.
Absolutely, sister. Absolutely. And going deep. And I'm going to love this conversation. And I love you. So it's going to be super juicy. Thank you. Reminding all of you, if you are listening to us in radio world, you can go to my website, SueLundquist.com/newsletter, and you can get the newsletter. You can get copies of the radio show, all of that juicy stuff. I do free readings every week. And I pull cards and then you get the message. And I did one today, or was it yesterday? It was so bang on. It was so beautiful. I want to also officially launch starting in July 6th, we're going to bring live readings back. So me and Nadine are going to come back and we're going to do live readings together like we did last year. And I'm beyond excited because it's a call-in show. We get to dance, we get a coach, we get to play. It's just beautiful. It's just a beautiful, beautiful dance. Reminding all of you, the C2C course, I finished that last week. It was the mini C2C, that was so wonderful. And it was incredible to see everybody having aha moments and, oh my God, moments, and talking about like what we're going to talk about today, vulnerability, boundaries, all that stuff. It was super juicy. If you want to do one-on-one coaching, of course, go to SueLundquist.com. You can email me. You can find out all that information right there. Get some love bumps. So sign up for the newsletter and you can get them right delivered to your inbox. I know we have Mexico, we have Australia, we have Canada, we have the UK, we have Switzerland, all of you. Thank you so much for reaching out. Thank you so much for listening. And I love getting your notes. So please don't stop doing that. We stand in the rink, right, Lisa? And when we hear from people that are loving on us, and patting us on the back. I'm like, thank you, right? I'm like, thank you so much. And P.S., that was perfect timing.
Yes. I needed to hear that.
Was, right? Oh, I love it. All right, Miss Lisa. Oh, welcome.
I love that you just brought that up.
Yes.
About being in the arena, because I literally last week pulled out of my bookshelf to read again, Daring Greatly. I read it years and years ago. But that quote is exactly what I continue to remind myself I'm doing. And I'm loving the book, but I'm reading it obviously from a whole different perspective and a whole different state of being. And it's landing in the most extraordinary ways. And I really feel like I'm getting it.
Right? Getting it with a new iteration, potato, whatever you want to say. It is, because we have this expansion and this growth. And then I love going back to my books. I love them. And then you read it and you're like, oh, shiitake. I'm like, it was profound then. Now it's even more so. And it's a different iteration, right? All right, babe. Let's get to know you. Please, I would do the formal bio, but I want to hear you, feel you, and I want the same for the audience. Tell us how you all started this and about your podcast as well, and all the juiciness that we're going to discuss today.
It's really interesting. I prefer to be introduced because
Do you?
Because I continue to change. I'm like, well, okay, this morning at 1 a.m., what am I going to say about myself right
see?
now?
So there was a reason I normally don't do this. I totally go through the bio, but now guess what? You're showing up, sister.
I so prefer somebody introducing me. Okay. So there has been some changes, as there always is. I create and then I discreate. So who am I today? I'm a mother of 3 boys. I started my podcast and started the Good News Guide back in February last year, which was post-separation. And I'd had this idea that I wanted to have a podcast for probably the last 5 or 6 years. But I was in a marriage that was safe, that looked after me, I didn't need to do anything. But be a mother. But be a mother. There was no real push. There was no motivation. And I was still in a state of not believing in myself, doubting myself, which I'm not going to say that doesn't happen from time to time still, but not to the same extent. That paralyzed me back then. So I didn't have the impetus to bring anything to life. I just sort of was going around in circles. I really was living a life going around in circles. I was a lot better off than I had been years before that, because I'd suffered from bulimia and direct depression for 20 years. So I felt like I'd come a long way, but I was still not fully alive. So when I stepped out of the marriage and I went and did this intuitive training, that seed dropped in again. I was like, okay, now is the time. I can't ignore it. It's time to bring this to life. And because I'd cultivated some courage from choosing to step out of what to a lot of people was a good marriage. He was a good man. We've talked about.
Oh, we did. Oh, we did, sister. Wow. Yeah.
And that made it all the more harder.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't abusing me. And he'd supported me on the journey. He'd supported me in the healing. He'd supported me to travel all over the world, to go to Dr. Joe Dispenza retreats, to go so many places, to write a book, to do everything that my soul was calling for me to do. He supported that. And then to turn around and say, I'm done. This is complete for me, was
it's important we take this minute here, because there are people listening and will be listening. And the language that a dear soul sister, another Lisa that's in my life, and when I talked to her about my now ex, and she said, oh, you're leaving a good man. I've been there. I've done that. And it could be a good man or a good woman. And it is that choice, because yes, they're a good man. Yes, you're a good woman. However, you both are simultaneously dying inside. Really, right? I mean, yes, you can have a beautiful provider and a safe space that you think is that safe space, right? But it's keeping you safe. The nervous system is keeping you safe, right? Yeah. So I want to a permission slip again to the audience. Take a deep breath, listen to the conversation Lisa and I are going to have, and the tools and the courage and the braveness of it all, and the vulnerability and the holy shiitake. I am so scared. I don't know. And losing our shiitake. I mean, so scared, right? But doing it anyway.
Anyway.
Oh.
And I to this day truly believe the only reason I was able to continue going down along that path of what I'd seen, and it was actually during a Dr. Joe meditation. It was day 4 of my first retreat. It was out when I came out of it. No, it was in Australia.
Okay.
It was in Sunshine Coast. So that was 2018. And it was as I came out of it, was actually during it, but when I really came out of this 2.5 hour meditation where he combined the kaleidoscope of my mind movie. And the mind movie that I had created, I couldn't connect with, because what I saw in the mind movie that I created pre the retreat was everything I thought that I wanted, and that was going to make me happy and feel successful and be it, and fill in that hole that I was feeling inside of me to make me feel alive. But when I came out of it, I realized it was my soul showing me, this marriage, it's done. But even so, I still fought it. I still couldn't acknowledge it fully when I got back. I didn't want to. It was impossible to be with. But it was that knowing that my soul had shown me that actually was the thing that kept pushing me forward, because once I knew, I couldn't go back.
Girl, yes. So the card that I pulled today is all about manifesting and pulling out your desire, owning it, listening to it, dancing with her, loving her, writing with her. Of course, that's what we're talking about today. That's the biggest message moving forward for all of us. Such a brave move. I'm honoring you and loving you and honoring those that are listening as well, because it's big, brave for everybody. And there's that essence, that feeling, that faith within yourself, and knowing that there's a bigger, better, greater thing to be happening. I say thing just because it's a very general adjective. It could be emotions, it could be an experience, it could be a conversation, it could be, there's so much more beyond that fear of what's happening right now, because that fear, and we can have that dance because we've walked through that and we'll continue to walk through it. I'm humble and very open enough to know that, oh my gosh, that fear is just the old patterns, the old self, the oldness saying, no, let's keep you safe. Let's keep you over here. Right.
Yes. And for whatever's showing up for people when you have a knowing of making a bold choice, all of your stuff is going to come up. All of it. So for me, it was the fear of making that there was a right and a wrong choice. And if I made the wrong choice, that was it. I was going to affect my life, my family. I wouldn't be able to go back. That was it. It was like it was a life, and it was almost like it was a life and death based on the way that my body had been conditioned to operate in life, right and wrong.
Right. I love that right there that little essence, because I had this conversation with a colleague and I said, hey, I'm right in the middle of giving birth. There's no going back now, because you can't pull the baby back in. You really can't do that. Right. And it's the metaphor, right? I'm like, oh, shiitake, it's coming. Right. I got a whole new life I'm birthing. Isn't that beautiful and juicy?
It's a great metaphor. It is great. I didn't have my 3 boys, none of them were naturally born, but I appreciate the experience, or your experience and other people's experience. And that's right. And that was very much this soul just pulling me. My soul just kept really just hand on my back, just edging me to make that, to actually have that conversation, which that was 2.5 years now, and not long. It was probably only 6 weeks after I came back from that retreat. That was how quickly
I remember
transpired.
that. I remember that.
What was it like for you? Was it?
Well, I was referring to, I remember that time with you after we met in Niagara. And there was and yes, it was a Dr. Joe retreat, but however, Niagara and the water and the velocity and the energy and the power that was coming, the energy and the frequency that was coming off of all these beautiful humans. It was so, of course, everything was going to pop. I mean, we had people popping left and right, but popping as in reclaiming their life and getting rid of the old stuff, right? I remember that conversation. We were at the coffee shop, and of course we bumped into each other. And of course, 22 years of marriage, 3 daughters, grown daughters. It was exact me. I'm like, we're having a mirrored conversation here. I love you. We're going to love each other through this.
I knew when we met and we gave each other a hug, and I had an idea. I don't know how I had an idea, but there was something. I knew that I wanted to connect with you. And when you shared that, and you walked off because you were obviously going back into one of something to do with leading, I knew as you walked away that was not it. That the power, the lives were too similar. And I also knew that I was committed to continuing to do Dr. Joe's work at that period of time, and that had been what had started me on this journey. So there was no way that I was not going to continue. I'm like, well, not that you've got me into this mess, but I'm here now, and I need to cross that. I really need to cross that river over to the other side, and then let's see what happens. But Niagara Falls was huge because I settled. We financially settled whilst I was there. The day before we finished the retreat. And I'd had a very clear intention how incredible that would be for it to happen whilst I was overseas. It happened. So I received, my financial settlement, which was an incredible closure. And then I had this experience in Niagara Falls. So there was a lot of healing, a lot of deep healing, because it wasn't like I'd done a lot. I mean, I'd done a lot of work on myself before I exited, which was part of the reason that I got to that point of making the choice to leave. But there's been a lot since then.
Right? Because you're recalibrating. Yes. Yeah. You're reclaiming, recalibrating, redesigning. Go ahead, Lisa.
And I'm also seeing the things that were dysfunctional in the relationship that I was operating from.
Oh, absolutely.
And there was quite a bit.
Totally. Absolutely. You're like, oh, I was talking to a friend the other day and colleagues in this conversation too. It's one, yes, I brought in my own, and 2, wow, I diminished myself and allowed that to happen. Meaning I take full accountability and responsibility for it. Right. Because I know fully now, moving forward, I will never, ever diminish myself, my choices, my feelings, my energy, ever, for somebody else, society, or circumstances. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, it does. It really does. And it reminds me of a conversation I've had recently with an American woman, Laura Martin Taylor, who is, she has a platform, Vulnerable Self. And this is all her work. It's about never, ever abandoning what you want, what you desire, what you think, what you feel, what you're asking for. It's to continue to anchor back in, and no matter what, you do not change for anyone, because as soon as we change, diminish, whatever it might be, sacrifice, we have abandoned ourselves. And so it's all about staying and being with oneself. And so what you've just said is absolutely in line. And her work is so powerful. It's simple, but it's not, because we're not conditioned. We're conditioned to abandon ourselves because we're seeking to be loved. And so we give in, we give up, we diminish, we play small, we shrink, we say yes when we mean no. I mean,
and boundaries and vulnerability and feeling safe. And yes, there's the dance of, if you're in a situation, a relationship, I'm going to talk about relationship because that is something that's kind of the umbrella of what we're talking about, because it's something that we have shared. Now, the relationship with another spouse or the relationship with ourselves, finding that clarity in ourselves and going, buck stops here. How did you know? I mean, yes, there was the desire and the aching, because I know it was the aching was so profound for me. It was killing me on the inside. And that, for me, raising 3 women was not the example I wanted to show up for them. Right?
Yeah, this is a very important piece of the puzzle for me, was around what I was showing my boys, what I was modeling to them. I'd done this program called Change Up in Australia, and I didn't really know why I'd done it at the time, because a lot of it was I'd done, but there was this one piece which was around legacy, and we had to write our own funeral speech. Yes.
Yeah.
And it really got me, because when I actually tune into what I wanted to leave, a big part of it, and at the time, look, I found motherhood very, very challenging. And so for a large part of my time as a mother, up until the last 12 months, I sort of almost wanted to say, I'm not cut out for it. So I'll focus on my work. But when I did this legacy, what was one of the most important things for me was the legacy I was going to leave my boys in how I was in the world. And so for me, I wanted to model to them what it looks like to lead and live from your heart, knowing that when you honor yourself, that you're honoring everyone around you, that when I honor my higher self and I'm doing that which she is calling for me, that is actually for the greatest good of all concerned, even if they can't see it at the time, i.e. my ex-husband.
Right there. Even if they can't see it, hear it, feel it at the same time. So important.
Because they might not be ready. Timing is everything. But in time, as I am now able to appreciate, my ex-husband can appreciate, I gave him the greatest gift, because he was not in a position to call it, whether he was not courageous enough, whether he just thought he would settle, as so many people do.
Right?
It's okay. It's not bad. It's okay.
No, we want thriving.
So
we don't want okay. We want thriving.
No, I want to show my boys. I want to show my boys what it looks like to live. Like, this is the gift that I've been given. I finally get that I have this gift of life. How can I express it? How can I experience it? How can I be in joy in only the way that I know? And I need to follow that. So that, to me, is the greatest model. That's the greatest thing I can give my kids, greater than anything else. Yes, my love, but showing them what it looks like to be alive, to live. And so the aching was there for me, aching. And the aching was this lack of connection. I wanted to be connected.
Yes.
I wanted deep connection. I wanted to bear it all. I wanted I didn't, it was so tightly constricted and controlled, and there was so much inflexibility that I couldn't feel him. And having come from the eating disorder and depression, where I was so deeply disconnected, that was the whole purpose of experiencing that, was so I could come back to knowing what it feels like to be connected.
Wow. So good.
And when I felt that, when I knew that, when I'd experienced it, then I knew that's what I wanted. So the woman I was when I chose him was still suffering from the eating disorder. So I knew no better. But the woman that was sitting there 2.5 years ago was like, this is what my soul wants. This is why we're here, to connect, to feel, to show up, to be messy, to be human, to love, for me to love you no matter what, and for you to love me no matter what, and for us to grow together. And it was not possible. You know, we'd explored that. We'd been to a psychologist for over a year. And she said to us in the first session, she said, I can see, this is when she just met us, I can see that what Lisa is most afraid of is that she's not going to ever be able to connect with you in the way that she wants to. And I just broke down, because she knew, she could feel, she could see that that was what my deepest desire was inside this relationship. And she could also see the incapability of my ex-husband to be able to meet me where I was calling, where I was asking for.
Oh, so true. The capacity. And then not making them wrong or blaming them, fighting that within yourself and them. Because they're not showing up for you and the capacity and the love and the connection that you desire, right? It's not making them wrong. It's making us okay in the love for ourselves. Even okay is a simple word, but it's the understanding that, you know what, I love you enough and I love me enough that this has got to stop. It's a powerful conversation. All right. We are going to take a really quick commercial break on the radio, and then we're still live on YouTube. And Lisa and I, if you want to join us on YouTube, just go to YouTube 1150, and we're going to keep chatting and noodling around, and we're going to continue talking about the power of choosing you, even through that fear, even through, like when Lisa and I were talking, leaving a good man, leaving a good woman, leaving a good job, whatever that is, you are crossing your proverbial bridge, right? You are giving birth, my brothers and sisters. And there ain't you can't pull that baby back in. Men too, you just can't. With that being said, we're gonna take a quick commercial break. Sue Lundquist here with the Gratitude Cafe. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Okay, all clear.
Yay, we're still on YouTube. Lovely. How are we doing with this? Are you loving this?
This is my juice. This is what I would love to be talking about all the time, because this is where it's at. And I just think there needs to be more and more of these conversations to demonstrate and also to allow people, to give people insights, because none of this was available to me. I wasn't part of these conversations back then. I needed to be, not that I needed to be, but now that I've crossed that bridge, there are so many people that are living what I want to call half-heartedly.
Oh, yes. What a great conversation. Now, this is a really good question, and I absolutely agree with what you just said. However, do you believe you would have been in a space that you would have heard that person demonstrating that permission slip, for lack of better terms? Would you have been able to hear that, or were you still spinning out in that fear going, oh, shiitake, no, I'm not ready yet?
Yeah. Well, who knows is
right?
The answer. Who knows? You know, the timing of going to Dr. Joe, I was ripe to receive.
Isn't it all divine timing, right?
That's right. So whether it was a Dr. Joe meditation or if there was a conversation that I was part of, I don't know. But I suppose what I'm sensing, what I'm feeling is, for people to be exposed to these types of conversations, if they are ripe to hear and they tune in, then we can be the conduit. We can be that space for them to receive the download.
Hands down, sisters, my brothers and sisters. Yeah. With some giggles and some goofiness, because we're talking serious work, brave work here. And I know for me, and laughter and tears and extras, it's a release, right? Release it and have a good time, and love yourself through the process. Some language that I use is CCs in your life, and that's compassionate curiosity for yourself and others. So when you're dancing in that dance and fear, resentment, conversations come up, and you're like, oof, let's have some CCs. Let's get compassionate. Let's get curious and have some compassion for yourself and others. And I just, it's
come back.
Yep. It's so powerful. We're going back. Oh, you're amazing, just the way you are, Benny. Brilliant song. Thank you, honey. All right, Sue Lundquist here. It's the Gratitude Cafe. Hello, Pacific Northwest. Hello, Australia, Canada, Mexico, the UK, to all of us joining us internationally. And of course, later on to the podcast world, we are having a really juicy conversation about the power within, choosing you over the doubts, choosing you over the fears, choosing you over the what ifs. You know, when Lisa and I were talking at the top there, we're talking about the courage, the examples. Lisa, you were talking before we went on a break, demonstrating and also leaving that legacy for your sons, likewise for me, leaving that legacy for my family and my daughters. And there's something really, really profound that hit me when we were talking about that, because I have always said the buck stops here. I am a product of an adoption. I have had abandonment issues from day one, probably since womb. There's no emotional charge anymore, but there's a reason that I say that, because leaving that new profound legacy, saying the buck stops here, that is so genuine and authentic. It's like my root, right? Like, I'm going to make my choices based on that. I'm not going to diminish. And this conversation and the language that Lisa and I are using is to demonstrate to you that you have the tools, you have the will, you have the hope, and you have the people that you can reach out to. You have the hope. I don't know if there's another word that I can use. Maybe Lisa, you've got another word, love. Just, you have the permission slip too, right?
I just think it's for me, it's that every one of us have it within us to make these choices. We have it all. We have it all of it. And so it comes down to remembering that we do have a choice. We always have a choice, even if it appears to be impossible. That's always
right there. Say that again. That's so profound, because it's that permission. It's you always have a choice, Lisa. Say that again.
I really loved this talk. I don't know if it was a TED talk that Carolyn Mace, and it was around choices. And it was that choices, if there was one thing that she wished that children were taught at school, was the power of choice. I've listened to it numerous times, because I was like, wow, that knowing that in every single moment there's numerous choices. Which choice am I choosing for me? I mean, it's okay if I choose to choose, if I choose something that's going to be less beneficial, if I'm choosing it consciously, still remembering I'm choosing that. So, and this will be interesting, and there's a reason. But I've chosen it. And so then it puts us back into the driver's seat of knowing that we are powerful beings, because we always have a choice. And what I said before was that we always have a choice, even if it feels impossible. We still can choose the impossible, which actually the impossible doesn't end up being impossible when you've chosen the impossible.
Because I'm possible.
And when you choose the impossible, like leaving a good marriage, you become so many possibilities open up as to what I am beyond the marriage.
Right? I don't know about you, but we can have this whole conversation off the air, because there's such a liberation. Do you feel that liberation, liberating, liberated?
So actually, it's so interesting that you use that word, because at the end of last year, I had two of my really good friends who'd become experts on my podcast. We turned the couch around and they interviewed me on me leaving the marriage, and it was about liberating beyond the marriage, beyond divorce. And it was the whole conversation was about the liberation for me and liberation for him.
Yes. And I'm sure, like you, I'm not going to put words in it, but I absolutely want his happiness for him. Right. And likewise for me. And he will always have an advocate in me. It's just, and we shared 3 beautiful souls that came through. Right. I mean, it's just, we came to this world as parents. And if you are of the belief that I am, we chose this path. The children's souls chose this path. for whatever they needed to learn in this journey. And knowing that also helped with the faith and the foundation of me keeping going and moving forward. Was there something like that for you? I have moments.
I'm of the same belief. So
Okay.
yeah. And so very much my kids chose us.
Yep.
So we were always supposed to be parents together, raising these 3 boys. And it was interesting. So when I was in one of the meditations back in 2018 at this Dr. Joe event, the same one, I received, my ex-husband's father had passed away, who I didn't get along with. But during this meditation, he came to me. Actually, no, sorry, it wasn't that. It was the following retreat. So it was the one in April after we'd separated. And he came to me and he said, the message was, basically, you've got my permission. Thank you so much for everything you've done for him to date. He is going to be okay, but you continue to, this was the right choice for all of you. And it was a profound thing because we had had a massive argument just before he had a heart attack 10 years before that. So there were these things. There were numerous things that dropped in to remind me that it was all that the choice that I had made for all of us was the greatest choice that I could possibly make, and it was in fact the right choice. And now 2.5 years on, after that conversation that was aired, my ex-husband actually watched it. He said to me, I watched that conversation. And I was like, wow, okay, how was that? Did I make the right assumption that you are happier, that I've liberated you? And he said, yeah. And I said, how was it for you? And he said, Lisa, it was like walking on eggshells a lot of the time. And I was like, why? And I broke down. I said, why did you stay? I'm so sorry. And he said, I just did. And that anchored in even more deeper knowing that, thank you for having the courage to do this for both of you so that he can be loved for him the way he deserves to be loved, not me wanting to change him and needing him to be a certain way for me to receive the connection that I wanted.
Oh my God. We are such a mirror. Oh, right? Yes.
Yeah. And I love him even more now. I can actually love him more. I can appreciate him more. I see him. I'm like, you are such a good man, Rich. Oh, you're such a good man.
Yes. Yes. Always. Just yum, right? Because I love this conversation. Talk to people, because I know we've been talking about vulnerability and choosing yourself and our story. I want to kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about how you are showing up, what you're doing with your podcast, and how you are facilitating change in you're standing in the rink, right? So how are you facilitating and fostering this, not only for yourself, but the people that you are being of service to? And I want people to be able to get a hold of you as well.
So it's interesting. So it's been a process, the process of stepping out of the marriage, stepping into something that I want to do, that I knew I uniquely wanted to contribute to the planet, which was, I'm a connector. I love connecting. I love being in conversation. I'm a communicator. So bringing all those pieces together, I love sharing extraordinary people, disseminating, illuminating information to expand people's minds and connect people with their hearts, because that was what was lacking. I was not connected with my heart.
We teach what we most need to learn.
So the podcast has been beautiful and extraordinary, and I love, and I've loved and love, but there is a but. I got a download about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I'd had a few messages, but 3 or 4 weeks ago, it was like, the Good News Guide, which is my podcast, as it is complete. I'm like the chapter. I'm not, but I was so attached to it.
Of course, yes.
And I was like, no. No, I mean, I've created this. This is my calling. And so again, courageously went, oh, okay, right. Well, here we are again. It was probably a little bit longer than that. But in the process, what I was really wanting to do was to create a body of work, which I've been resisting for a long time, was to create a body of work from my own experience to deliver, because it's all very well that I'm in conversation, but a lot of people were saying, but what about you? I want to know, like, I'm connecting with you.
Yeah.
So I have been working with an extraordinary American woman who is a shaman. She blends spiritual technology with business. She's amazing. It just, as soon as I connected with her on Clubhouse, I was like, you are amazing. She's quirky, but she's smart. I love it. I love the combination.
Yeah.
Anyway, for the first time ever, I have committed so deeply to myself that I will not complete this process without channeling through, bringing to life what my next project is, which is the wholehearted woman.
Oh, I closed my eyes and I saw just this fire of heart. I'm so excited for you.
And it is really, it's not mine, but it's been born from me, from my experience of living from brokenhearted, which I won't be working with people from that, but from that half-hearted where you're stuck and you're going around in circles and you're not actually living your true, authentic life, and you're not lit up, and you're diminishing and making small and shrinking your needs and your desires and your dreams and all of that, to come back and be alive and choose you and choose you and choose you time and time again. So that is what I'm doing. And the podcast in time will shift over to that new name. But for now, it's the Good News Guide, and all the conversations are there. But that's what's got my energy and attention, and that's what I'm birthing right now.
Wow! Congratulations! Bring it to the US of A, sister. I love it. Congratulations. So how do people? Yeah, I love it. So how do people get a hold of you?
Okay, well, the best way to do it is via lisawinneke.com. And to message me there. There is, for anyone who is potentially interested, there is an application form. Because they need to be all in, because
I'm with you on that one. Yeah, absolutely. I've got the same process too. And you've got to be all in. And even through that fear, you've got to be all in.
Yeah, because we're here helping you cross the bridge, holding your hand, but you need to be moving along with us.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm deeply, deeply, deeply committed to women that want to cross that bridge and want to embody what I call the wholehearted woman, which is living vulnerably, authentically, boldly, courageously, from heart, lit up, modeling to the world what it looks like. Because when we can step into being wholehearted and embodied from that place, then what does that do for the men in the world?
Right. And the other women. It's just the modeling, the example. And I say this so often: how are you showing up? I say it to myself in a conversation. I say it to men and women alike, providing it's permission. I don't go into that, and okay, something keeps coming up, and the word tickle keeps coming up for me. But when you were in conversation with colleagues, friends, people that you're just meeting, the conversation, and even my children too, the conversation and the question is, did you just go into coach mode, or you Sue mode, or you mom mode? When I'm asked that, or I have a conversation with somebody, I answer and say, that's me, all of me. It's not, did you just coach me? Did you just Sue me or mom me? And there's a reason I say this, because I show up with my own tools and the way I'm going to show up and be that person to everybody. It's not that, is this the coach talking, or is this Sue talking? It's all one and the same. However, right? And there's a weird little dance and tickle that happens here, because somebody may say, if we're having the conversation, they'll say, was that Coach or was that Sue? And I'm like, it's all one and the same. However, with that dance, I also am hyper vigilant with integrity and asking permission. Would you like to have a deeper conversation about this? I'm going to show up with all of my bags of tools. I don't call it Coach. I don't call it Sue. I just call it me. Where do you go with that dance and that? Because I think it's an important conversation and an awareness, right? Because people are like, what was that? Did you just show up as Coach? And I'm like, no, I'm me. I'm happy to share it. And if they say that, then I'm like, oh, we need to ask permission here. I'm going to step back and go, wait a minute, something's going on. Because it's never my intention or intentionality to go right to somebody and go, Coach. That's not me. It's just me showing up. It's like us having this conversation.
So I would be curious as to what's going on for them that would have them. That what would have them asking? Is it because what's been triggered inside them potentially is where I would go. As we know, no one likes being told or, me, I have to say, if anyone tries to offer me advice, if I haven't asked for it,
yes,
I don't, it doesn't land well.
Yes.
And yes, that's probably because it triggers me that don't you think I'm capable, or do you think that there's something wrong, that you can help me, that you're more capable, that you can see something. So I probably do. But when somebody asks me, it's interesting. I know that that used to happen quite a lot. Oh, I do it with my kids. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, my kids are quite, I'm not going to say anti, but they're a little bit resistant to all the things that I do. Yeah. I very much don't change for them, but I'm mindful around them that it's not going to land.
Got you. That right there was bang on. I'm mindful and aware that it's not going to land.
So I'm not diminishing myself. I'm not changing. They know mum does this, mum meditates. They know mum moves their body. Mum does breath work. Mum does chanting. They know all of that.
Yep.
And as I might have used to want them to know, want to share, want to impress upon them, I don't do that anymore. But so going back to the legacy, I am choosing to be the embodiment of a wholehearted woman. What that is, I'm conscious and I'm responsible for my experience and showing you what that looks like so that you can have your experience.
Wholehearted woman. Brothers and sisters alike, you all will benefit.
Well, I'm speaking to one, aren't I? I mean, you are the embodiment of a wholehearted woman. And this is what I'm finding is when I look around me, the women around me are wholehearted women. They are living on the edge of life. They are all in. They are living in uncertainty. They're emotionally exposed. They're risk takers. They're not risk takers, crazy risk takers, but they're like, I'm choosing this because this is what my soul is asking me to do. So, okay, here we go again. And that
giving birth, walking across that bridge.
And that feels deeply connected and deeply alive. For me.
Yes. Did you guys hear that, audience? Do you want to feel deeply connected? We talked at the top of the hour, the importance of our journey, of the feeling of being connected, right, Lisa? Our connection, our desire. Do you want to? It's not even want. There's a reason that you're hearing this interview. There's a reason it's like that little tick in the tire that keeps going tick, 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 tick. You don't know what it is. You're still riding the bike, but you're like, what is that thing? It's driving me nuts. It keeps ticking. You're like looking around and then it comes within, right? You're like, So take what resonates and leave the rest. And Lisa's here. If you want to live, if you desire, if you've got that tick inside of you that says, yes, this resonates. Yes, I want to feel love. Yes, I want to feel wholeheartedly. Yes, I want to experience, to reclaim. These are just big, juicy words, right? Live my life that I create, that I design beyond the expectations of anything and everybody else. Liberation.
And you are a beautiful demonstration of doing exactly what I am talking about. Absolutely.
I'm receiving that. I'm taking that in because you know as well as I'm raising 3 females. That's a petri dish of a lot of shiitake mushrooms. Just looking it right in my face over and over again every single day, you know, and standing in the rink by myself. So I really, really appreciate that you can witness that and see and mirror that back to me and go, Sue, you're doing it. You're doing it. So thank you so much. Thank you, Lisa.
It takes so much courage. to choose life, like to actually choose life, doesn't it?
It does. I'm going to spell out your website. It's LISAWINNEKE.com.
That's
and
it.
all of that information will be in the newsletter, on social media, and we'll get you all connected. So again, audience, you know, and Lisa, I do this whether I'm coaching or even for myself. If I see an inspirational line of quotes and stuff like that, I turn it into questions. Like, so you are creating wholehearted women. Let's turn that into a question. Do you want to embody, be the example, change your legacy, and move into a wholehearted woman? Do you? Does it scare you? Then let's do it. You're in the right place at the right time. Yes. Or I have lost everything. I don't know what to do. Perfect.
Yes.
Reach out. This is the time. That is exactly where you want to be. Love on yourself in that moment. The CC's in life. Let's do it right here, right now. Oh, so powerful, right?
I have loved this conversation. Same time next week, maybe not same time.
Oh, I know we won't do the same time, but I would love to have this conversation off air. I mean, we've got terrestrial radio with FCC rules, but I would really like, I'm noodling around like an after hours party kind of thing that I want to do. That my team and I are creating, so we can go deep into these conversations and get private, get literal, get intimate, you know, just let's dive in, let's get raw.
I think it would be so awesome for women. So incredible.
And for the men that are in their life too, because
totally,
we feel open and liberated and safe. Oh, guess what? Guess what's coming down your pathway?
They're very, very fortunate men.
Very fortunate men. Benny, what do you think about that? Just sign me up. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, cheering. Yay.
Yay.
Yes, because we all want to be liberated and open and wholehearted. Did this wholehearted conversation resonate with you? Lisa is here to provide the tips and the tools and the conversation. She's going to model example and give you real life tools to help you process, to help you cross that bridge, to give birth to your beautiful life again. Her website is Lisa. I'm going to just spell it out. LISAWINNEKE.com. If you are driving, you can get all that information at SueLundquist.com. And of course, if you want a copy of the show, which yes, you should be doing, go to SueLundquist.com/newsletter. And for the podcast world, find us on SoundCloud and iTunes. We'd love a 4-star review because I like 4 stars, 5 stars, all the stars. Oh, my sister, it's been an absolute blessing. Thank you for mirroring. Thank you for loving. Thank you for showing up. And I love you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm so grateful. I loved it. Thank
Ah.
you. That just hour went so quickly.
It goes so fast. Yes. And with that, you guys, we will see you next week. And remember to sign up for the newsletter, keep in touch, find us on social media.